Okay.
A very good afternoon, good morning, good evening, all the participants. We heartily welcome all our speakers and the moderators. We welcome you to our 36th session of our association. Few people are very well familiar with our association. Those who are not, I would like to request you all to please watch a video to know us better. Thank you, everyone. Now, I would like to request a person who is the strongest pillar of our association and chapter head of Hyderabad chapter. May I please request Dr. S. Mohan Raj to come and introduce the topic. And today's discussion is very wonderful. It's a roundtable discussion. And may I please also request him to introduce all the speakers, discussant, and the respondents. Sir?
Thank you, Shravan. Good afternoon.
Sir, can you please turn on your camera, please?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all the participants of the webinar. I'll briefly introduce the team. I request all my colleagues to switch on their camera so that everyone can be seen. Now, we have 5 of us today who will be participating in this roundtable. And we have exactly similar backgrounds, and I'm really happy about it. But we are also different in certain ways. If we are not, the discussion cannot be possible at all. So let me tell you how we are common, how we are also different. We have all studied under the same roof called Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages. Therefore, maybe our ideas appear very similar. But we have worked in several different places. Therefore, we have also changed our views, etc. However, we do present our views on a particular topic, which is teacher training in ELT, a way forward. We will look at this particular topic in the light of NEP. We will bring in some of the reflections of NEP into this particular topic as we proceed. Now, I don't like to really infringe on the points that the two discussants are going to put forth. However, it won't be out of place to briefly tell you what teacher training in India is like, particularly in ELT. It's just about 60 years old, not more than that. And during these 65 years, several institutes have come up, and the two major institutes that we have to think of is Institute of English in Allahabad and CIE in Hyderabad. Both of these came up in mid-50s. Subsequently, in 60s, two premier institutes were established called Regional Institute of English North India, which is in Chandigarh, and Regional Institute of English in South India, which is in Bangalore. And we have two representatives from these two institutes, Dr. Vandana Lunya. She is the director of Regional Institute of English North India, that's in Chandigarh. And Dr. Ravi Narayan is representing Regional Institute of English South India, that's in Bangalore. He is the senior most member of faculty in that particular institute, who has a long innings. He has a long innings here. Both Dr. Ravi Narayan and Dr. Vandana will present their views on the state of art as far as teacher training is concerned, especially the in-service teacher training. And we have with us, Dr. Praveen and Dr. Rajendra Jadeja, who are very, very senior educators. They are not only senior teacher trainers, teacher educators, they're also into a lot of administrative work. Dr. Rajendra Jadeja comes from H.M. Patel Institute of English Training and Research, that's in Vallabhidyaga. And Dr. Praveen is from Trishur. Both have headed institutes called Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, which was an experiment by the government of India, which was conferred to some of the best teacher education colleges in the country. And both of them have worked in institutes of Institute for Advanced Studies in Education, one in Vallabhidyaga, one in Trishur, and both have headed these institutes. And we are very happy we have such an elite team here. So without much delay, with this introduction, I'll begin the discussion. And my first question is jointly to Dr. Vandana and Dr. Ravi Narayan. Dr. Vandana and Dr. Ravi, you both represent the regional institutes of English, and both these institutes are more than 60 years old. In fact, both of you have seen teacher training, especially the ELT teacher training, grow from stage to stage. Now, what are some of the major changes in terms of development that you can see? And what are some of the challenges that you have faced each time there was some sort of a change that was brought about in the training programs? We'll begin with Dr. Vandana. My only request is, let's take just about 3 minutes to make our presentations, each one of us. Okay, Dr. Vandana.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan Raj. Good evening, everyone. Tracing the journey of RI North India is a huge task. However, I will try to do so. Basically, an in-service teacher training institute, RI came into being in 1963. For more than a decade, it was assisted by the faculty of the British Council. That is till the early 80s. And later, one British Council scholarship for doing masters in ELT under the Colombo Plan was given to the faculty members every year. Apart from two regular teacher training courses that RI does, RI also has been doing doorstep training and giving extension lectures to higher education institutions and school education programs in institutions such as Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodaya Vidyalayas. In the 90s, we developed the functional English syllabus that was adopted by 200 colleges across India. We have also a Department of Extension Services wherein we provide ELT consultancy to state departments of education, boards of school education, and universities. In this journey, RI also trained teachers from other countries such as Vietnam, Nigeria, Cambodia, the latest being Afghanistan. RI did not restrict itself to teacher training only and tried to give other courses such as post-graduation in English, personal development for college students, soft skills for school students, etc. for several years, which entailed curriculum development for both the programs. In 2016, after taking over as director, I started the Continuous Professional Development Program for Teachers of Chandigarh under our CPD wing. It is an innovative initiative of RI. Our CPD model is a staggered 8-week program for school teachers. We enroll 40 in-service teachers for this program. It requires teachers to be with us for 1 week every month. In that week, we train them in all the aspects of a particular skill or component. After that, they go back to their schools and continue their teaching work. They also try out the methods learned at RI and give us feedback on how things worked out for them when they come for the next contact program. This follow-up ensures that the participants manage to get our support through the year while they're away from their schools only for 8 weeks. In 2020, due to COVID, as we switched on to the online mode, we doubled the duration of the courses. Talking about the pedagogy, RI has always proposed that the best method of teaching English is the one that suits their context the most. We also advocated the communicative approach initially, but we were dealing with teachers from the rural Punjab and Haryana. It became very clear to us very soon that CLT may not work. The positive impact of CLT has been negligible as far as rural areas are concerned, because the teachers are also not well equipped to use CLT in their classes. CLT has made positive impact only in the English medium schools where both students and teachers have adequate exposure to the language. I would say the picture is still the same as it was 30 years ago. In fact, in rural areas, it has become worse. Therefore, in our methodology classes, we have always advocated the contextual approach or the eclectic approach more than the communicative approach, as we assert that we are in the post-method era, and the best method is something that actually works in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was wonderful time maintenance. Ravi, could we have your views on this?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mohan Raj, and good afternoon, everyone. As most of you will know, the Regional Institute of English South India, Bengaluru, was established in 1963 as a result of a campaign called Madras English Language Teaching Campaign, MELT. It's popularly known as MELT campaign. And I'm glad to be associated with this institute for more than 16 years now. At the Regional Institute of English South India, Bengaluru, we have an annual academic plan, which is approved by the Board of Governors, who are the principal secretaries of education of the member states. We cater to the needs of 6 South Indian states, namely Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Puducherry. And recently, Lakshadweep has also shown a lot of interest in becoming one of the member states. We work under 5 wings, namely Teacher Training Wing, Research Wing, Publication Wing, Faculty Development Wing, and ESP Wing, that is English for Specific Purposes Wing. So teacher training is our flagship program. We used to conduct in-service teacher training programs for 4 months when the institute was established in 1963, and then it was reduced to 3 months, and then to 2 months, and now we conduct 1 month residential in-service teacher training programs. We have also shifted our focus from training teachers to training trainers. So we conduct trainer training programs as well. And then under research wing, we carry out many different research studies, and we make recommendations to the department. And under publication wing, we've developed lots of materials like reading cards, training modules, and our series of films called Hello English and English Around Us. They're popular in many states. These are 20 video films to develop the spoken skills of students. And then we have faculty development wing, where we invite experts from the field, experts from the RELO, British Council, and other non-governmental organizations who conduct in-house faculty development workshops. And then we have English for Specific Purposes wing, where we cater to the needs of the general public, students like engineering students, MBA students, and also we conduct ESP courses for professionals such as nurses, doctors, and lawyers. Talking about recently, so one of the best achievements that we have made during this pandemic is we have recently, from November till today, we have trained 600 teachers, both primary and secondary, online. I think that was great, really, engaging teachers in their continuing professional development online during the pandemic. And coming to the challenges, I think the main challenge, as far as I'm concerned, is we don't have an appropriate model for the CPD, continuing professional development of teachers. We lack a CPD model. We follow one-size-fits-all kind of approach, whereas some teachers, they need a lot of support in developing their proficiency, whereas other teachers, they need inputs on pedagogical skills. And some of them need training programs on content enrichment, textbook-based training programs, and others need programs on developing research skills, developing trainer skills in materials production and research skills. So I think it's time we devised an appropriate model for the CPD of teachers.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Ravi. I think that's a good reflection that you need some model for CPD. Now, we have some sort of a bird's eye view of the work that's happening in the 2 institutes. And we have with us Dr. Praveen and Dr. Rajendra Jadeja, who are very senior teacher educators and administrators. I'd like the 2 of them to give their views on the models that are used in both these institutes. We'll begin with Dr. Jadeja briefly. Again, the time restriction stays. Dr. Jadeja. Dr. Jadeja, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan Raj. And I must start by congratulating the two RIEs, the two speakers and their teams, because from the way we can see the way they are functioning, I think within the limited resources of Indian institutions, these two stand out for doing excellent work and for, in fact, keeping alive the tradition of teacher education. Not only keeping alive, but also they have kept growing, it seems. But I would like to make 3 points. And my first point is that the panoramic view that you have presented and what I have learned from other sources also in other ELTIs of India, I am aware of the fact that we exist more or less like islands in our own regions, in our own states. There was a time when CIE used to call annual conference of all ELTIs, and that gave us an opportunity to meet and network with each other. I think it is time now, because it is so much more possible to network, because communication networks are now easily available. It is time to go beyond single institute existence and start networking in a more meaningful manner. I think it would help us in many ways. First of all, by sharing our resources. We have limited human resources, limited staff. So it would enrich ourselves and it would give us more opportunities to help teachers of English in rural, semi-urban, and even urban areas. So I think the need for networking is the first point I would like to argue. And I believe ELTAI is doing excellent work at the national level. And once again, if not through formal state government bodies, we can connect with each other through ELTAI. And like today's program, I think if we not only do an occasional presentation, but if we adopt a practice of national networking through ELTAI, it can become much more meaningful. My second point is that although we have started doing some distance education and some online work, I believe that in the years to come, any program will not remain only face-to-face training or teacher education program. All our programs will have to adopt blended learning approach. So part of it will have to be face-to-face and part of it will have to be online. So I believe we have to adopt more and more online presentations in our pre-service as well as in-service training programs. I think teacher education is eminently suited to online work because it is difficult for teachers to be free from their school and come to a central place for training. If we adopt an online approach, then it becomes so much more possible for us to keep in touch with the teachers, and especially for the CPD. I'm happy that you are saying that we need to create a new model or an appropriate model for CPD. Indeed, it is high time that we do it now. And if we want to do it and if we want it to become physically possible in our situation, it will have to be online or largely online and marginally face to face. So that is my second point. And the third thing I would like to say, just a minute now, um, the third thing I would like to say is that we need to pay more attention to testing and certification. I think in the Indian context, we haven't created tests of English which are useful to our learners, which reflect um,
I think we have lost connection with Professor Jadeja. There seems to be, he may have to reconnect. Meantime, could we ask Dr. Praveen to give his views, especially on the future way that both the RIEs can follow? By then, probably we'll get back to Dr. Jadeja. Yeah, Dr. Praveen.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, sir?
Sure. Yeah. We are.
Well, at the outset, I would like to thank the ELTAI, Professor Elangu and Professor Monraj for inviting me to this roundtable discussion, and of course, Dr. Vandana for coming up with such an idea of this kind. Now, I worked in the RIE South India, Bangalore, almost 2 decades ago, and I moved on to a teacher education college. As you know, the syllabuses and the curriculum is all prescribed by the National Council for Teacher Education. And we also teach, in addition to English, if you're a language teacher educator, we also have to teach educational psychology, sociology of education, technology of education, and so on. So it's more holistic. But then what is unique about RIE, which we have listened to right now, is that in both these institutions, teachers from different states come there. And then they also, as part of the training, they are introduced to several methods, but then they also see how certain methods work in certain states. There's a sharing of experiences, and they learn from each other. So at the outset, let me tell you, RIE training, teachers trained from RIE are much better than teachers trained from local colleges of teacher education. So that is one big advantage. So you're in a better position to do a good work. But at the same time, as I also tell you, there are those, even when there was problems with funds. So we couldn't take up a lot of programs. So this began to affect us. Here too, now, unfortunately, RIEs don't have the ability to take policy decisions, but then you can lend your support for materials production, which you're doing, I suppose. And then even continuous professional development you're taking up. Now, we listened to Dr. Vandana mention that there's a particular method like the communicative approach doesn't work in rural areas. Incidentally, in states in Kerala, in a state like Kerala, they are focusing on constructivist practices. They're also focusing on critical pedagogy and so on. So a teacher who familiarizes himself or herself with all these methods in RIE, where teachers from all the other states come together, they get a chance to learn from each other. So I think that's the greatest advantage of being in RIE. Another thing, learners tend to vary. We train teachers in a particular state, and these children go to the school and teach the textbook prescribed in that particular state. But then when they go out, they may not end up getting a job in the same state. They may get a job in some other state, if suppose they get into Kendriya Vidyalayas or even Navodaya Vidyalayas, where they have to teach a different kind of text. But what is here very important here is that they learn to teach in multilingual settings. That's important, because a teacher who's a student, let's say someone who's a Tamilian, he gets a job somewhere in some other state. That learner has to learn to survive teaching English language in that particular situation. Has to be familiar with that language also, and the learner's own language, and then English. So 3 languages working at the same time. So how you learn to teach. And I've also noticed while I was in RIE that the teacher trainees who come there, they will be teaching those in Karnataka, schools in Karnataka, students in schools in Karnataka, they have a different one. They get experience to that. So I think right now, the kind of training happening in RI is extremely beneficial and it should continue. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Dr. Praveen. So from the four speakers, we have got, I'm just going to summarize a few of the points. RI Chandiga is using contextual eclectic approach, which is a wonderful thing, which means they understand the learner needs and customize the courses. RI Bangalore are highly aware that the CPD is their weakness and they would like to strengthen that. Dr. Jadeja has recommended two major things, three, but the two things that I'm going to take is how networking and testing are extremely important, along with, and the networking also takes into account the blended learning. And Dr. Praveen has talked about the constructivist approach, which is in fact what should be really done. And constructivism, once you get trained into constructivism, you obviously learn to adapt yourself to a new situation wherever you are posted. Therefore, the training that is offered in any institute becomes meaningful. With these points, let's again get back to our two discussants from the two RIs. Now, we are all aware that National Education Policy 2020 is out and it's likely to be implemented anytime now. And it has brought in structural change as far as our schooling system is concerned. And our training in both the institutes is largely in-service training, which takes care of the school structure as it exists now. That's one. The second point is the entire philosophy of education is also changing along with NEP, the introduction of NEP. It's no longer reproducing the text, but it is applying the text to our own life. So I put it as grasping rather than memorizing. This demands, this makes a very heavy demand on both of you, in the sense that there is a backlog of senior teachers who are used to teaching in a particular way. When they come to you for their in-service program, you obviously need to modify your training strategies. Have you given a thought to it? And would you like to share your views on that? Shall we begin with Ravi? Ravi?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Mohanraj, sir. Yes, I would agree with what you said about making changes in our own training programs. That's absolutely right. I would say even NCF 2005, National Curriculum Framework 2005, came out with similar recommendations. They
2009, National Curriculum Framework for Teacher Education.
Yeah, even NCF 2005, yeah, I mean, position, they came out with they proposed 5 guiding principles. One of the principles was connecting classroom knowledge to the outside world, to students' real life, and then shifting our focus from rote learning to, as you rightly said, constructivist methods of learning and going beyond textbooks and all these principles. But I mean, we talked about this in 2005-06, and all the states conducted training programs for teachers based on constructivist approach, but I don't see much change happening in the classroom. And what I'm trying to say is that any such top-down initiative will not really work in the classrooms. We can change textbooks, we can suggest methodologies, but unless teachers change themselves, unless we see real changes in the classroom, I don't think we are helping much in improving students' learning. So what we do at RIE Bengaluru is that we believe in reflective practices. We encourage teachers to become reflective practitioners. So we help them write reflective journals. And these days, teachers even create blogs. And then we have developed digital portfolios. Teachers create digital portfolios. And then we also have peer mentoring sessions. Teachers conduct peer mentoring sessions. And then we give a lot of input on exploratory action research. I mean, how to identify classroom problems, how to collect data from students and other stakeholders, and how to solve some of these classroom issues, problems. So teachers get a lot of orientation on conducting exploratory research and action research. And then they also gain mentoring skills, research skills. I think these are some of the bottom-up initiatives which really help teachers in reflecting on their own practices, critically analyzing their classroom practices, and trying to bring some change in the classroom. So our focus is to develop teacher autonomy. And once teachers become autonomous, so the teacher agency, we try to develop teacher agency. Once they make wise pedagogical decisions in the classroom, I think that really helps students, and students in turn become autonomous. So that self-direction, if you're able to give self-direction to our teachers, I think they'll be able to take care of themselves. So in the background of NEP 2020, what we have done is we are trying to develop teachers' digital skills. As a follow-up of our face-to-face programs, we conduct a 3-month online follow-up sessions with primary and secondary school teachers. I think this seems to be working very well. And we are also trying to develop special packages, different materials on foundational literacy and numeracy. We are developing packages on learning outcomes, early childhood care and education, and also materials on mentoring skills and spoken English. I think the best thing is we're involving DIET faculty and some of the expert teachers and trainers in the process of materials production. I think these resources will have to be shared with, as Dr. Jadeja said, with the wider network. Yeah, that's it from my side, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, thank you, Ravi. I think that's a lot of good planning that you have. I'm particularly impressed with exploratory action research, which is almost a very recent phenomena, totally recent phenomena, and making the entire thing a self-directed learning. I think Dr. Jadeja is an expert in that area. He will probably give his comments on that. And also digital skills, developing digital. I think these are probably in the right direction. Now let's check with Dr. Vandana. Dr. Vandana, have you given a thought to these areas? Because this is a pressing need now. Over to you. Yeah. Unmute yourself. Dr. Vandana, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mohan. Yes, we do all those things that Ravi has been talking about in our teaching training programs. In fact, we have a lot of emphasis on digital training of our teachers. We devote, like I was talking about my CPD program. So one full week is devoted to, making them aware of what are the latest digital trends in education. And of course, learner autonomy is also one of the most important aspects of our teacher training. However, I would like to talk in the light of NEP 20, what kind of steps RI will be taking now. So RI has already started taking steps towards fulfilling the need of becoming a multidisciplinary organization, as we designed a 120 hours course in personal development and also delivered short workshops in disaster management. Recently, we were asked to consider giving courses on forensic examination and defense studies with National Forensic Science University and Rashtriya Raksha University. According to the NEP, the first fundamental principle that we should guide both educational system at large as well as the individual institution within it is recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each student by sensitizing teachers as well as parents to promote each student's holistic development in both academic and non-academic spheres, which means we clearly need to give non-academic aspect equal importance. However, if we look at the academic side, we definitely need to go beyond the textbook. That is beyond what is prescribed. And this is exactly what we try to do. In fact, we've been trying to do in our CPD program and in our PGCT program for the last 4 to 5 years. Now, this particular thing is in line with the principles of CLT that necessitates teachers to use authentic materials in the classroom. These are the materials that students are supposed to decipher more than the textbooks. NEP 2020 also aims to make full equity and inclusion as the cornerstone of all education decisions to ensure that all the students are able to thrive in the educational system. So our teacher education programs are generally learner oriented, and for all the teacher education programs, we have a separate, wing that does the needs analysis first, and then we do the curriculum design for them. So it would be, therefore important to consider students' experiences of life as the text in the classroom. This is what I mean when I say that we need to go beyond textbooks. The students' experiences can be elicited from them using and encouraging them to speak in the language in which they're most comfortable, their mother tongue or the local language, whatever. This relates well with the concept of inclusive education, in which all students get a right to express themselves. And that is what all the teachers, all the trainers in our teaching training programs are actually told to. Of course, there are so many other aspects of inclusive education which we need to be sensitive about. We all know that exclusion could be based on gender, socioeconomic condition, language, and class, which has to be carefully avoided, emphasizing the need to promote respect for diversity and respect for the local context as well. This takes us to another related principle of promoting multilingualism and the power of language, which is very important for teacher training institutions. So by promoting multilingualism and recognizing the power of language, we will encourage students to use their mother tongue or the local language whenever they need to. I've already highlighted it under the principle of inclusive education. For the last 3 decades, we've been telling our teachers to help their students to think in English, which has been working very well with students who have a good exposure to English but fails with others. And they become quieter when teachers compel them to express themselves only in English. So this is something that we looked at when we designed our CPD program. In the CPD course that RI started, we promote bilingual methods to the extent that instructions for the activities may be given to the students in their mother tongue. This helps not only students to perform the task given to them exactly the way it is to be done, but also the teachers who may, at times feel inadequate while giving exact instructions, as they are basically social studies teachers who are expected to teach English. Having said that, one main challenge that we face today in implementing NEP is the successful implementation of the policy itself. The change in the curriculum in the light of NEP may be looked at as an innovation. According to innovation research, for any innovation to be successful, it has to be introduced and implemented gradually, or we may say in an incremental manner. We are also aware that beliefs and attitudes do not change overnight. And the onus, therefore, is on teachers who not only need to work on their own attitudes, but also try to change attitudes of all other stakeholders in a way that it is successfully implemented. Secondly, material writers also remember to add texts that introduce values suitable to our local and cultural context without neglecting the need for understanding the global context. Such expectations are quite demanding, which again prompts us to go slow but steady. There is shortage of faculty in most institutions.
Dr. Vandana, sure.
Most institutions, including RI Chandigarh, however, this can be taken care of by collaborating with other institutions and using their expertise, as NEP also expects teacher training institutions to reinvent themselves and become multidisciplinary. That's it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Wonderful. In fact, I'm sorry that I had to suggest that the time we are running out of time because quite a few points have come up. In fact, you have already laid a wonderful path ahead. I'm sure the two discussants have a difficult time now because you have suggested most of the things that they should have really said. So we have seen points like writing reflective journals, which is in fact an excellent strategy in teacher education. exploratory action research, the self-directed learning. Then we have the multidisciplinary skills, including extremely useful life skills of disaster management and forensic sciences, going beyond the textbooks, inclusive, lots of inclusive education. And especially what I like most is, though we are focusing on English language teaching, we are not forgetting other languages. We are making it multilingual. I think these are really some of the ways to look forward. However, I have just 4 small points based on which I thought the two of you could comment. Taking into account the points put forth by both Dr. Ravi and Dr. Vandana, I have certain doubts. These can we cope with the large number of in-service teachers that come to us with all these strategies? That's one thing. One, of course, there is networking, that one thing that you have suggested. Second is, if we take this framework, if we take all these points together, where is the scope for experimentation or some sort of an innovation? And the third point is, does this also provide some sort of a research possibility? Does it open up new domains of research? And finally, can we think of theorizing all this and put it as an Indian model, indigenous model? Could we begin with Dr. Praveen? Dr. Praveen?
Well, yes, can you hear me, sir? Fine.
Yes, yes.
Well, we have just listened to Dr. Vandana mention self-directed learning and reflective practices by Dr. Ravi. And Dr. Mohanraj suggested that I identify something related to kind of research we could undertake. Now, all these I would like to address by relating it to NEP 2020. One major thing that has happened is we have now started focusing on early childhood care education. That's a big, major shift that is happening. And then you're going to start teaching English right from standard 1. And there is also one strong view that in the early years, teaching, the focus should be on the mother tongue. Let the learner learn through the mother tongue. So the immediate question you need to address is, how will you introduce English and mother tongue at the same time? Are you going to make use of the bilingual method? Are you going to think of a new method that's going to work, a grammar translation method or something? So research in this area has to be taken up seriously. Now, NEP 2020 also mentioned something about texts that are locally specific. Now, already different departments of education have come up with textbooks. So when you associate with them for textbook development, you can come up with materials that match the NEP guidelines of coming up with text suitable for local situations. Because you are in a particular position to do that, because you have faculty from all the 4 states coming in to teach. You have teachers. You can have group work to come up with ideal materials. Another important thing is it is not going to be rote learning that is to be tested. You want them for developing the ability to use the language. So what about the testing strategy that is happening? Can you think of revising it so that it suits the learners? Now, Dr. Ravi did mention something about making teachers digitally competent. Now, I think in the 2010 National Council for Education Policy for Teacher, National Council for Teacher Education's Teacher Education Framework, they did mention technology-based teaching should be important. But only now during the COVID pandemic, we have suddenly realized that our teachers are not competent enough to engage online classes. And here, one major aspect we have to look into, particularly in the context of India, is that accessibility is one issue, affordability is one issue. Most of our learners are don't have laptops at home. Some students don't have accessibility to internet. So in such a situation, how can you think about going about teaching online. So this is something you have to take up. Now, in terms of a local model, let me come up with something which some of us have tried in Kerala state, and that is the use of WhatsApp exclusively for teaching, for the pedagogic purpose. You have, because the advantage of WhatsApp is that if you can if you have a smartphone, you're not going to use a lot of data. You can use audio, you can use visuals, you can use video, you can type, and all these are several types of input you can give using a cheaper medium. Now, to have a laptop, to have internet facility, it's good. But then if you have a smartphone, you can think of all these possibilities. And then, as said earlier, CPD is also an important area that has to be looked into 2020. So all these, if you look into and try to match guidelines of any 2020, I think both institutes can do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Praveen. Jadeja, would you like to suggest a few?
Yes, thank you. I would like to make 2 points, and I'm trying to include other issues in these largely grouped 2 points. One is networking. We have been talking about it, and I would like to say that we can relate this to the NEP 2020 in a big way. I think Dr. Praveen is very right in pointing out that all our learners do not have a laptop at home, so that can wait a little. But I think all our teachers have a smartphone by now, and we should make the most of it. So networking should largely be based on the teachers using their smartphone for their professional development. So the CPD model that Ravi requested will have to work around this possibility. I think it's a major possibility with which we can do some wonderful work, and we can break new ground if we enable our teachers to use their smartphone for their professional development. Now, how can networking help in this? I'm sure we are already doing this in our own regions with our own groups of teachers. But if we break the mold of working within a state or within a region, and if we start focusing on national level resources and creating national networks with the existence of smartphone model, I think it is possible to do a large number of things. And for the ELTAI or some other national level network that we can create, I would like to say that we can begin by building up a resource pool. We can make resources available to teachers not only within our own state or within our own region, but national level resource pool which our teachers can access to. So that will work both ways. I think we will be able to contribute to the work happening elsewhere in the country, and we would benefit by the work done by excellent institutions like the two RIEs and a large number of research that has happened at CFL, for example, which is not accessible today to teachers in our schools and colleges directly. But if we can put it on a kind of digital resource, national level resource pool, and make it accessible, that would be a great thing in my view. The second point I would like to make is just one more minute. I think the self-directed learning model for CPD is the way to go. So one thing is technology based and creating a network. The second thing is self-directed learning model. And once again, at the national level, if we can create a smooth path for professional development and allow our teachers to move on their own, and our institutions become enabling bodies which then offer guidance, offer assistance for self-directed professional development, that would be a dream situation, and I would be very happy to see that day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well.
Thank
Well
you
said.
so much. Thank you so much. Brilliant points that have come out from both the discussants. In fact, thank you, Dr. Praveen, for suggesting such a beautiful topic for research, which is excellent. In fact, I think all the research institutes and the universities should take a note of this research based on multilingual education, how there can be some sort of a balance that can be struck between English teaching and the mother tongue teaching. And also you gave an excellent vision on the textbook design. I was reminded of the axiomatic statement, think globally, act locally. I think that's how you captured it. And testing also, how testing can be revised. I was wondering whether we could have our own standards like CEFR. Probably we should be attempting to do something like CEFR. National Literacy Mission has attempted it, but I'm not sure if it is readily available. And Dr. Jadeja talked about how the available resources can be exploited furthermore for both CPD, pooling resources, making a common pool of resources, and SDL strategies to be used properly for technology. So the main points that we have discussed so far are how there is a need for structuring all the training programs, then building network to promote both professional interaction among almost all the possible professionals in the country, both formal and non-formal collaborations to become a reality, and online programs to be promoted in a large scale, teacher autonomy to be enhanced, and rightly so, teacher autonomy also ensures learner autonomy, CPD to become some sort of a regular feature. Textbooks certainly need to be redesigned, reshaped, and use of technology to be given a lot of boost, and exploratory action research and digital skills to be promoted among the teachers, and research in multilingual teaching, whether it could be a bilingual method. Why not revisit the bilingual method? These are some of the points that have come up. We are almost at the end of the session. I wonder if there are any questions. The chat box says that the session was very important. Okay, there is a question. Professor Ramani has asked a question. Has there been a demonstrable, documented evidence to show the extent of impact of teacher training programs on actual widespread classroom practices? If not, how might such evidence be gathered and shared for further improvement? I think Dr. Praveen touched on this particular point. Dr. Praveen, would you like to respond to this? This is a question from Professor Ramani. Would you like me to repeat the question?
I think that's... No, I got the question.
Right.
I think it's a very important question. Normally what happens is we give the training, but we do not take the follow-up to see how effective the training was, how the person who received the training applies what he has learned. So this seldom happens. And I think this is something we have to seriously take up. I think there was a reference already made by Dr. Vandana in the first response that they do ask learners to come back after weeks and then check what they have learned. So this is one way of checking. You give them some training, you get feedback from them, then you refine them and so on. This is something we have to seriously take up. It is also always what happens is it's a one-time training. You give the training, then it's over. There's no connection with the teacher educator, the institution, or the trainees. This should be continuous. So if you can establish a link of that kind, it would be wonderful. I'm not sure whether anyone has taken up serious research in this area. This has to be done, and it would be good if we take up research and then look at the findings and refine our own teaching.
Yeah. In fact, all of us did talk about follow-up strategies and how there is a larger weakness that is felt in almost all the training programs about the follow-up, and how follow-up can be strengthened is one thing that we have been talking about, and I think that responds. But there's a second question from Dr. Vinod Chopra. There is a trend of appointing teachers on temporary basis across the nation. What is worst is that mostly these teachers are untrained and can never do justice with their students. Is this a good practice? I think it's a very philosophical question. Professor Jadeja, would you like to respond to this? Would you like me to repeat the question, or what Vinod Chopra says is that there have been so many ad hoc appointments,
I got
and
the question, and I think it's an important.
We are not able to hear you.
I think the implementation of NEP will have to ensure that we overcome issues like this, because it was something that really limited our functioning in a major way. And now the national government and various state governments have said that they will start recruitment on a larger basis in a serious manner. We hope that we will be able to overcome this, but we should certainly convey it to the people concerned that this creates a major hurdle in improving our education, whether it is English language education or education in general.
True.
Thank you.
True. Actually, there's one more thing. With your permission, I'd like to just add one sentence. NEP has suggested a different type of teacher training, integrated teacher training program, which takes care of both content and methodology. I'm sure that's going to help. Secondly, the introduction of TET exams. I think that's also that will also go a long way in responding to the question that Dr. Chopra asked. I think we can take just one more question. Is there any competency mapping framework? I'm not very sure of this. Would one of you like to take this up? Is there any competency mapping framework?
I think mapping has not been done, but NCERT, even the state departments of education have come out with learning standards, learning outcomes for each grade, right? So I'm not sure about the mapping of these learning outcomes with the textbooks and the materials available. Yeah, maybe we need to do that. Yeah.
Dr. Vandana had sort of indicated in our second presentation, you did indicate how you were trying out a few of the things that, as far as the learners are concerned, and how you help them keep a reflective journal. Would you like to add to this? Is it possible to map the competency?
Actually, as far as teachers are concerned, we can do something for them. But if it is something learner oriented, then of course it is the teachers who have to do all this. So I am again not sure how we'll be able to map it for students at this stage. Of course, first we have to start with teachers. But like the first question about previous question about teachers being taken. The teachers being taken on an ad hoc manner, and this happens all over India. And because of this practice, whatever innovations that we try to make, whether it is mapping the competency or other things, it becomes very difficult Because what happens is we appoint a teacher, and within 2 or 3 months the teacher goes. And this has been happening for the last 4-5 years in Chandigarh as well. Whether it is school teachers or whether it is college teachers, we do not have adequate number of faculty, and whosoever comes and joins is only there for some time. So they are there only for some time, and they are not able to actually internalize all these things that we need to do as teacher educators. So it becomes a little difficult actually.
Yeah.
But yes, we need to do this mapping. This
Sure. I think that's a very pertinent question. Of course, there has been some sort of an attempt at portfolio management. Portfolio management, if we keep, at least we can map the learnings graph, but I'm not sure if it can map the competency graph. I'm not sure of that, but that's one of the things. With that, I thought we could call it a day. Thank you very much. I think each one of you have made excellent contribution. It was a wonderful treat. I'm sure all the participants have liked this presentation, and there is a lot more that can be said about this. We didn't have adequate time. I'm sure we can extend it by another session. Let's hope we will have that occasion very soon. Thank you very much, each one of you. I thank you very much for raising to the occasion. And we also thank ELTAI for hosting this. For today, we have this much. Next week, next Sunday, we are meeting again with one more webinar, exactly at the same time on 17th of January. We will look forward to seeing each one of you on that day. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you for moderating the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.